Hey, what's up, buddy? This is Tim, and I am here to make a video for Ashik, and it's called How to Identify a Pattern. I think I made a video before, but I figured I'd make one because he asked for it, and I don't mind doing that. Making another video that's over something I probably already covered, but we're in a new state of the market, and I'm going to show some new patterns uh, since I have it on my mind. I've been looking at the chart, and the first one I want to show you is, not all the time these patterns are. If you look at like Investopedia, it's a good site. It'll tell you like the probability of a pattern like this being bullish versus bearish. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is adjust it a little bit to get, this is a multiple times we had touched on the way down. So one, two, there's two right here, three, four, and then the fifth was the break. And this was, I believe, when Elon Musk made that tweet that said Bitcoin alone and pumped us out of this rut. You know what I mean? Usually these are bearish. This is a bearish pattern, but I think that Elon Musk tweet alone is what changed it from bearish to bullish, and it's pretty funny, ain't it? So we have a triangle right here. It's more of a right triangle, you know what I mean? We have a flat here and then a descending resistance, and a lot of times that ends up breaking down, but we broke up out of it. You need to be prepared for anything, and on with Bitcoin especially, guys, because sometimes a bearish pattern could be bullish and vice versa. You know what I mean? So you need to be prepared for anything. But what can we get from a pattern like this? This is a way to identify a pattern. That's the idea behind this video. There's also other patterns in this picture, but this is one of the more prominent ones. So what I wanted to show you guys is the earlier you can identify a pattern like this, the more you can make a trade in it. You know what I mean? Because you're only going to have so much time before it's absolutely the end of the road. So we broke out of it here. We only had, from the life of this would be from here to here. I guess you could say that the pattern started here, because you have to have a beginning point and an end point. So let's say it started here and ended here. So, I mean, it started here. Let's say it started here. I mean, it has to have 2 points to start, basically. So I'm going to say it started January 21st or January 8th, 2021. Okay, so January 8th, and it ended January 28th. So you had about a month of learning this pattern to trade it. You know what I mean? And that's a quite a long time. Like I said, you may not identify that pattern until we get to this point, but you still have you could have drawn the line here and then notice that line, that trade, this trade. You know what I mean? You had a bunch of tops and bottoms you could have made inside of this pattern to make some money, and you can learn how to trade these patterns to make some decent money, these triangles and stuff like that. Now let's see if we can find a different one. Okay, so what I was talking about here is another pattern. I was bringing it up this morning. I'm going to talk about it again. Here, it's not that one. I think it's this one. Maybe it's not in there. I could have swore there was a pattern for it. Maybe not. Let me look one more place. Oh yeah, here it is. The arc. That's what I want. Alright, so what I see right here, guys, is another weird pattern. What is that? It's kind of a cup shape, right? I'm going to take a drink real quick. Give me just a break. Oh, I love orange juice. Anyways, there's a cup right here. It's almost perfect top to bottom top. You know what I mean? Even though this is a little higher than this, because we didn't get quite to the all-time high. The all-time high is acting as stiff resistance, but that could work out to the cup's advantage, because the handle would need to go, I would say, to right about here at least, before we could see a cup and handle like scenario. A cup and handle is a bullish chart. It's whenever you have this cup just like this. Now all we need is a handle. The handle's a little easier said than done, guys. If we don't get the handle, there's no effect. You know, it's one of those things that we're gonna have to wait and see if it happens. And it very well could. A rejection from the all-time high resistance would be very likely, and we're sitting there flirting with it right now. Where are we at? We're at 56,700. So I mean, we're less than $2,000 away from an all-time high, but we're also about a few $1,000s away from creating a handle, and that handle could push us way over 60K in my opinion. So, you know, fingers crossed. I've been talking about it for a few days, but like I said, that's another pattern that you don't see very often. But whenever you get noobs that come in here, they're really excited about things like cups and handles. They're always like, hey, are there any cups and handles, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And people really notice those patterns because they're easy to identify. But they're not often on the chart, guys. You know, like Head and Shoulders, they're not on the chart all the time. You know what I mean? So people will say, oh, I want to see Head and Shoulders. Where's the Head and Shoulders? You know, just because they're on there doesn't mean they work either. You know, it's one of those things that I think new traders, even me when I first got in, that's what I was looking for. As soon as I turn a chart on, I'm like, okay, let me find a Head and Shoulders. Maybe I'll be a all-star trader, you know. It's just one of those things that you learn quick after being in trading for a while that you don't see them very often. And when you do, even when you do, there's no guarantee that they're going to work as advertised, you know. That's the way I always say it. They may not work as advertised because sometimes they don't. You'll see a Head and Shoulders and they won't be bearish or they won't be bullish from the inverted Head and Shoulders. It's one of those things that you just have to play the market by ear, guys. If you see it, maybe you want to adjust yourself to benefit from it if it does work out. But you need to also make sure you cushion yourself as well, just in case it doesn't work out, you know. Because these, if this handle doesn't form, then this is no cup and handle, you know. It's just, it looks like it could be though. So like I said, I'll keep an eye on it and hope for the best. But like I said, identifying patterns is a art, guys. It's not gonna something you just learn to do by watching a video. You're gonna have to take some time and take some effort in your part. You know what I mean? It's gonna take a lot of playing the charts over and over and over again, guys. And I'm gonna try to find a good spot here. Maybe there. I mean, that's kind of an uptrend right here. This Elon tweet, though, I don't like to include it, but it's closest thing I have to a point. You know what I mean? I can't say that really even touches, but I can say I can expand this and possibly get those to touch. But you know what I mean? It's one of those things. Making charts is not a science; it's an art, and sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. So you need to. I'd be able to identify in the patterns is a big deal, and let me see if I can find one more before I leave, because patterns aren't just about triangles and stuff, I suppose, but most of them are. It's like a pinpoint. Triangles make pivot points where you break out, and it's just easy to identify it whenever you see a triangle. Now, flat trends are also, you know, like this, for instance. Look, we've had a lot of this where you're going straight across, you know. It's just boring. But like I said, if you zoom back a little bit, it moves because the price is going down as we go back. So what I'm trying to do is find you a pattern. Okay, here's one. Here we go. Let's go ahead and draw it from here up to here. Alright, so we have all the way up to there, and we have from here to there. You can just see how the bouncing in here resulted in a breakout, you know what I mean? And that's the way trading is. If you can identify patterns like this isn't the prettiest triangle I've ever seen, guys, but you have multiple touches, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can even count that, 5, and then 6, and then we finally have a breakout. So like I said, how long were we inside of this? If you want to count from here is when the account entered, so November 5th all the way through, or November, Yeah, November 5th all the way through November 15th. So we were in that for 10 days. So that means you have 10 days. If you the earlier you can identify it, the more you can trade. So you know what I mean? That's the whole idea behind a pattern, is being able to identify it early so you can take advantage of it. That's the way everybody wants to do it. And like I said, there's probably a pattern somewhere over here. In fact, we could go ahead and say, let me see. I'm just trying to identify one real quick, like, you know what I mean? They're not always as easy as cut and paste. You need to be able to take some time to be able to identify it. In fact, I'm going to get away from this volatile part of the chart, see if I can't find something normal. Alright, let's see if this is one. Sorry, guys. We're going to do this last one. And you can just see that, you know what I mean? It's not rocket science, really. You have a downtrend right here. Now, what you could do sometimes also is hold control, double click, and move that down there. Now, I'm not saying it's always going to work. It didn't work as I had hoped, but like I said, you can move it and it'll leave the angle like that. And that's how you can identify a trend. A trend and a pattern are very similar, as you can identify the you know what I mean, where the support and resistance is due to the top and the bottom of the trend, and you can make money off of that. And what it looks like to me is the support was strong right about here, because we were going down the trend just fine, and then we bottomed out and we started going up. So let's see. That is a let's see. Well, here, I'm going to go back a little farther. I know that I can find something better. In fact, what I'm going to do is go to a different time frame, because that'll probably help me find some different patterns. You know what I mean? There's the patterns that I already drew, but they're not, I didn't mean to do that. Here, let me go back a little bit. Alright, so you have this dip. This was back in March 13th. This was like that bloody day. All the market, Bitcoin market went from 10,500 all the way down to 3,800. That was like a 3x drop. You know what I mean? That was a huge drop. And what happened after that? We have gone uphill ever since. This has been the start, to me, of the bear. This was the reverse of the bear to the bull. The bears took their last swipe at us, dropped us as low as they could, and then all it did was hit the beehive, and we took off after that. And what we could see is there was a trend that was very evident from here all the way up. I mean, you can see that we touched here, touched there, and we did lose a little bit, but we broke up eventually. And look, I mean, you lose trends over time, but the trend is your friend until it goes away. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Learn how to trade a trend. I'm trying to find examples where you could do this, and you could kind of do it here. You know what I mean? There's one example where the wick went above it, but there's plenty of examples of where we did hit it right here, right there, right there. So like I said, a lot of times copying one of the trend lines and moving it above is a good way of being able to identify it in the future. Because if you would have done it back here, you would have known that this possibility would have came up, this possibility would have came up, and you know what I mean? You trade accordingly. I know bots do that, a lot of traders do that, so it's something you should keep your eye on, are trends like that. And that's why I wanted to include it in this video. It's not necessarily a pattern, but these trends act the same way as a pattern does. So like I said, there's plenty of different patterns you can identify. Right here is a good one. This is back when we hit 14K. This is right when I started making charts. So you have this one right here, right? For a whole few months even. We went from all the way in June to September before that chart, before this pattern ended, okay? So what happened? Look. we were in this triangle, beautiful triangle, right? This is a beautiful example of a pattern, and it failed. And then we ended up dropping, and we ended up dropping to 3,800 before we recovered. So that shows you we went from 14K, lost almost 4x, and went zoomed up to 60K. So, there's Bitcoin for you. But this is how you identify patterns. You come in there and look, if you would have been able to see this to this, and you can't literally draw this unless you have a few points. You know what I mean? You're going to have at least this point to go off of, and these points right here, hopefully. You know what I mean? Because you're going to have some idea of what's going on, which leaves you these trades to make. You know what I mean? And the more bounces you have, the better. But like I said, trading a pattern isn't as easy as it sounds. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to be able to identify it early and trade it accordingly. You know what I mean? And that's the way you do it. And this one right here, you had 3 months of solid from June. What was it? Yeah, June all the way to September. So June, July, August to September. So 3 months of inside of this pattern trading. So you could have made money off of it. You know what I mean? I know I made money off of this, and falling out of it, I know from this Investopedia article that a right triangle like this is a bearish. So I was expecting a breakdown. We did break down, and the market acted a little screwy afterwards, but we ended up down at 3,800 before we recovered, 3,600 I think. So like I said, you take the good with the bad, I suppose. But anyways, that's how you identify patterns, Ashik. I know that there's probably more to this. There's probably more patterns that I didn't cover, but this is the basics of it. I want to go ahead and start off with this video. We'll get more advanced as we go, you know what I mean? But this will get you started at least. But I hope you learned something, bud. And anyways, we'll stop it here. Have a good one.